Breaking tonight, President Obama addresses his critics about the disastrous rollout of the health care overhaul and, for the first time, revises his now broken promise, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. Now has a whole bunch of qualifiers directly from the president. I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome, everybody. This is the Kelly File. The president is just returning from Boston at this hour after wrapping up a fiery and at times highly partisan speech about his health care law. It took nearly 20 minutes before he addressed the newest Obamacare controversy. What about that now infamous pledge that was at the heart of this law's passage, that if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your insurance, you can keep your insurance. He said repeatedly, I guarantee it, period. But it's not true. 2 million so far have lost their plans. And that number is expected to grow. It could top 10 million, could top 14 million. Here's how the president explained the issue today.
Now, if you had one of these substandard plans before the Affordable Care Act became law, and you really liked that plan, you were able to keep it. That's what I said when I was running for office. That was part of the promise we made.
The president had little choice but to speak to the issue somehow. Even the Washington Post fact-checker today labeled Mr. Obama's many guarantees on this issue a, quote, whopper, giving it 4 out of 4 Pinocchios, saying his promise apparently came with a very large caveat. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan if we, the government, deem it to be adequate. Meantime, back in Boston, President Obama expanded today on what that promise really means now.
And today that promise means that every plan in the marketplace covers a core set of minimum benefits.
A core set of minimum benefits. All of the plans will now cover that. But what happened to all those people who were supposed to keep their plans that maybe didn't cover all the benefits and they didn't care? Well, it turns out someone decided for them that their insurance just didn't work. Washington didn't like it. The government wanted those Americans to have something different. So here is the new promise tonight.
For the vast majority of people who have health insurance that works, you can keep it. For the fewer than 5% of Americans who buy insurance on your own, you will be getting a better deal.
Just take it, enjoy it, and be quiet. Mark Thiessen is a fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and a former speechwriter for President George W. Bush. Yeah, so now the vast majority are going to get to keep it. And for those those pesky 5% that keep complaining, just enjoy Obamacare. Why do you keep complaining?
The vast majority. He didn't say anything about the vast majority in 2009. He said if you like your plan, you'll get to keep it no matter what, period. There was nothing about a vast majority. So this speech was an exercise in dishonesty and revisionist history. And look, Megyn, do you remember George W. Bush's famous 16 words on Iraq? Well, Barack Obama now has 16 words he needs to answer for. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan. With those 16 words, he lied us into Obamacare.
And you feel that this was no accident. I know you believe it was a lie, that it wasn't an unintentional falsehood, that it was a lie. And you believe it was intentional, it was designed because they knew all along that this was going to happen in the individual insurance market. And not only did they know it, they needed it.
Yes, absolutely. And look, he almost admitted it because he said, look, if you're one, he said today, quote, if you're losing you're getting one of those letters, cancellation letters, just join Obamacare. That was their first of all, you can't join Obamacare because the website doesn't work. But if you could, that was their plan all along. Because the problem is, in the individual market, most of those people are healthy people who don't use a lot of services. In order to fund Obamacare, they need at least 2 million people, healthy people who don't use a lot of services, to leave the individual market and join the exchanges so they can cover and subsidize the poor and the sick. Well, as you pointed out, 2 million people are losing their plans. It's the perfect number, and they're going to be more. So all those people are coming in, and they wrote the regulation specifically to make sure that those people lose their plans, so they have to go nowhere. They have nowhere else to go but to go to Obamacare.
It's fascinating because you hear these testimonials time and time again of, I chose the plan that was not so great. It's because I'm pretty healthy, my wife's pretty healthy. And we don't use a lot of insurance, and we basically just have it there just in case. And we chose the plan that worked for us so we could have a low premium and so on. And so your feeling is the administration also understood that and said, those are exactly the kind of people we need to pay more to fund the expanding Medicaid rolls we're going to have under Obamacare and the government subsidies that we're promising under Obamacare. And there's only one way to get them, and that's to somehow get them out of the insurance plan they have while I'm running out there telling everybody they can keep the plan they have.
No, that's exactly right. And he was talking today about substandard plans. And so what they're doing is they're pushing these people out of what they call substandard plans into these plans with all these mandates like maternity care, substance abuse care, vision care. Well, what if you're a guy who's healthy and doesn't plan to get pregnant, doesn't use drugs, and has 20/20 vision? You don't need all that stuff. And then what they're doing is they're pushing you into the exchanges where you're going to get all that stuff you don't need and don't want, and in a lot of cases, subsidized by the taxpayers. That's what they're doing.
Well, that's a true irony, is that you actually have Americans who were paying the full bill on their own premiums and happy with their coverage. Now that coverage has been canceled, they're going to have to move over to the government exchanges. The American taxpayer is now going to have to subsidize a policy that they don't want and don't need. That's the situation
we're going to be subsidizing
we find
maternity care for guys like me. Congratulations.
Okay. Thank you for that image.